Hey everyone, welcome back. Seems like you're already thinking ahead to 2025.
Always good to be prepared.
For sure. And you guys have sent over a couple of interesting pieces on financial planning.
Yeah, one from Truist Bank.
And another featuring a financial planner on NASDAQ.
Yeah, so we've got kind of like the big institution perspective
And then someone who's, out there advising individuals.
Exactly.
So let's dive into these and see what we can learn.
Sounds good.
Okay, so right off the bat, it's interesting to me how both sources, even though they're coming from such different corners of the financial world,
Yeah,
they both start with the same core message.
getting the fundamentals right.
Yeah. Like it's not about jumping into some crazy investment strategy or
Yeah.
trying to time the market.
It's really about that solid foundation.
Yeah. It's like building a house, you need that strong base.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't build a skyscraper on shaky ground.
Exactly. So they both really hammer home the importance of an emergency fund.
For sure.
Truist recommends having like 3 months of living expenses tucked away.
Yeah, that's kind of the gold standard.
Right. And they talk about how it brings peace of mind, especially with all the, economic question marks out there right now.
Totally, especially with inflation still being a concern for many and the housing market kind of being unpredictable.
Right? Like who knows what's going to happen?
Exactly. Having that buffer can make a huge difference.
It's like a safety net so you don't totally freak out if something unexpected happens.
Exactly.
Okay. So speaking of things we might not always want to think about.
Oh, what's coming?
Budgeting.
Yeah, that's the one.
I'll admit, I'm not always the best at it.
It can feel a bit like a chore sometimes.
But the NASDAQ expert makes an interesting point.
Let's hear it.
They say it doesn't have to be this super complex spreadsheet with, every penny accounted for.
Right. It's not about deprivation. It's about awareness.
Yeah, it's more about just getting a handle on where your money's actually going.
And then making conscious choices.
Exactly. And they even mention this phrase, guilty pleasures.
Ooh, everyone has those.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That daily latte or that online shopping spree?
It's about recognizing those patterns and deciding if they really align with your goals.
Totally. Maybe those lattes are worth it to you, or maybe you realize you'd rather put that money towards something else.
Like a vacation or paying down debt.
Exactly. And that's what I like about how Truist links budgeting to your personal values.
Now, tell me more about that.
So it's not just about, scrimping and saving for the sake of it.
Right.
It's about making your spending align with what's actually important to you.
So you're not just mindlessly spending, but making choices that reflect your priorities.
Exactly. So maybe you do cut back on those lattes, but then you have more money to invest in your hobbies or take that weekend trip you've been wanting.
It's about finding that balance.
Totally. Okay, so emergency fund sorted, we're budgeting masters. What's next on our financial checklist?
Well, both sources talk about reviewing your insurance coverage.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Especially with all the premium increases lately, it's worth shopping around.
Have you looked at your policies recently? It's easy to just let them auto-renew, but you might be missing out on some savings.
For sure, and it's not just about finding the cheapest option, it's also about making sure you have the right coverage.
Yeah, with all the crazy weather events these days, it's important to have adequate home insurance and maybe even flood insurance.
Definitely better to be safe than sorry.
Okay, so insurance is covered. Let's talk about another big one, debt.
Okay, let's tackle that beast.
Truist really emphasizes paying down high-interest debt, like credit cards, as a key to improving your credit score.
Yeah, it makes sense. The faster you get rid of that high-interest debt, the better.
They even mentioned those different debt payoff methods, snowball and avalanche.
Right, Snowball is all about tackling the smallest debts first to build momentum.
And avalanche is more strategic, focusing on the highest interest debts to save money in the long run.
It's like choosing your weapon wisely.
Exactly. Now, the NASDAQ expert doesn't go into detail about debt specifically, but they offer a tip that I think is really relevant here.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Reviewing your subscriptions.
Oh, yeah, those can sneak up on you.
Totally. All those streaming services and gym memberships we barely use.
Those little monthly charges can really add up.
It's like death by 1,000 cuts.
I like that analogy.
So taking a close look at your recurring expenses can be a game changer.
Absolutely. It's often about those small leaks that we don't even realize are draining our finances.
Okay, so we've covered the basics, emergency funds, budgeting, insurance, and those sneaky subscriptions.
It's a good start.
Now let's shift our focus to the future, shall we?
Sounds good.
Both sources are big on planning ahead, but they approach it from slightly different angles.
Interesting. Let's hear it.
So Truist starts by throwing out a pretty alarming statistic. Only 34% of people feel like they're on track for retirement.
Wow, that's a wake-up call for sure.
Right. And it highlights why starting early is so crucial.
Time is your best friend when it comes to investing.
Not exactly. Even small contributions made consistently over time can really snowball thanks to the power of compounding.
Like a snowball rolling down a hill getting bigger and bigger.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that Truist also mentions a common regret among retirees not having saved enough.
Yeah, that's a tough one to swallow.
And they point out that if your employer offers a matching contribution to your retirement plan, making sure you're contributing enough to get the full match is essential.
Free money people don't leave it on the table?
It's such an easy win.
Absolutely.
Now, while Truist focuses on traditional retirement planning, the NASDAQ expert emphasizes the power of setting specific financial goals.
Oh, I like that.
They use the example of paying off a specific credit card.
Okay, that's a tangible goal.
Right. It's not just about saving in general. It's about having a clear target in mind.
Makes sense. It gives you something concrete to work towards.
Exactly. It's like setting your GPS for a specific destination instead of just driving around aimlessly.
I love that analogy.
So what do you think about this approach?
I think it's really powerful because it can be applied to any financial goal, saving for a down payment on a house, paying off student loans, even funding a dream vacation.
Yeah, you break it down into smaller steps and suddenly it feels much more achievable.
It's like climbing a mountain one step at a time.
Exactly. And I think this ties in nicely with Truist's emphasis on aligning your finances with your values.
Oh, yeah, we touched on that earlier.
But I want to dig a little deeper into what that actually looks like in practice.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Because it's easy to say align your finances with your values, but what does that really mean?
Right. It's more than just a nice sounding phrase.
Exactly. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it starts with recognizing that financial well-being isn't just about accumulating wealth.
Okay.
It's about creating a life that feels fulfilling and meaningful.
I like that.
It's about using your money as a tool to support the things you care about most.
So it's not just about the numbers in your bank account. It's about making choices that reflect your values.
Exactly. And that's where things start to get really interesting because when your finances and your values are aligned, managing your money becomes less about restrictions and more about empowering yourself to live the life you truly desire.
I love that. So it's not about deprivation. It's about empowerment.
Exactly. It's
Okay.
about using your money to create a life that feels good on every level.
Awesome. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this first segment.
We have, but it's all important stuff.
It is. And I hope everyone listening is feeling inspired to take some action.
Me too. Small steps can lead to big changes.
Absolutely. We'll be back in a bit to delve deeper into some specific strategies and tips to help you turn these insights into action.
Can't wait.
See you soon. Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you had a chance to kind of process all that.
Yeah, we threw a lot of information at you there,
It was like a crash course in financial fundamentals.
but hopefully an inspiring one.
Yeah, for sure. So to recap, we talked about building that emergency fund, mastering budgeting, navigating insurance, and of course, those sneaky subscriptions.
Those little budget vampires.
Exactly. But remember, it's all about progress, not perfection.
Absolutely. Just take it one step at a time.
Yeah. So let's zoom in on a couple of key themes that emerge from both of these articles.
Okay. Sounds good.
First up, retirement planning.
The big R word.
I know it can feel kind of distant, especially if you're, early in your career.
Yeah, it's easy to push it aside when you're dealing with more immediate financial pressures.
But as Truist pointed out, procrastination can really cost you when it comes to retirement.
True. The earlier you start, the better.
Remember that statistic, only 34% of people feel like they're on track for retirement.
Yeah, it's a bit sobering.
It's a good reminder that we can't just ignore this part of our financial lives.
Right. It's not something that magically takes care of itself.
And it's not just about hitting a specific number in your retirement account.
It's about having the freedom to live the life you want in retirement.
Yeah, you know what I think about sometimes? All the things I want to do when I retire,
Oh, yeah. Tell me.
like travel, maybe start a little side hustle,
That's the dream.
spend more time with family and friends.
It's not just about not working. It's about having the time and resources to pursue your passions.
Exactly. So both sources are spot on about taking advantage of employer matching programs if you have them.
Oh, yeah, that's free money.
Seriously, don't leave that on the table.
If your employer matches your contributions, make sure you're contributing enough to get the full match.
It's like an instant return on your investment.
You can't beat that.
Okay, now I want to shift gears a bit and talk about something Truist brought up that really resonated with me.
What's that?
Holistic well-being.
Oh, yes, the idea that financial health is about more than just numbers.
Exactly. It's about creating a life that feels good on all levels, physically, mentally, emotionally.
They even recommend giving back to your community, which studies have shown can have a positive impact on both your mental health and overall happiness.
It's a beautiful reminder that money isn't just about accumulating wealth. It's about using it to create a life of meaning and purpose.
And sometimes that means investing in experiences, relationships, and causes that are important to you.
Totally. So it's not just about the bottom line. It's about finding that balance between financial security and living a life that feels authentic and fulfilling.
I love that.
Okay, so let's switch gears again and talk about some more tactical moves.
Actionable steps.
Exactly. The NASDAQ expert had some good ones.
May why me?
We already talked about reviewing subscriptions, but they also emphasize shopping around for insurance to make sure you're getting the best rates and coverage.
Yeah, it's easy to just stick with the same insurance company year after year, but it pays to compare.
You could be leaving money on the table.
For sure, a few minutes of research could save you hundreds of dollars.
And it's not just about saving money. It's also about making sure you have the right coverage.
Absolutely. Especially with things like home insurance, you want to make sure you're adequately protected.
Okay, so we've got subscriptions and insurance covered now for something a little more complex.
Bring on the challenge.
NASDAQ expert mentions Roth IRA conversions.
Okay, that's a bit more advanced.
It is, but it can be a really beneficial strategy for some people.
Especially those who expect to be in a higher tax bracket in retirement.
Right. It's about being strategic with your taxes.
But it's definitely something you want to talk to a financial advisor about before making any decisions.
For sure, professional guidance is key.
Don't try this at home, folks.
Exactly. Okay, so we've revisited retirement planning, explored some tactical moves to boost our financial fitness, and even dipped our toes into the world of Roth IRA conversions.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So where do we go from here?
Well, I think it's time to shift our focus from general principles to your personal financial landscape.
Okay, love that.
Both sources emphasize the importance of setting goals and staying on track.
Goals are key.
So what are your financial aspirations for 2025? What would you like to achieve?
What are those milestones that would make you feel like you're making progress on your financial journey?
Think about what's truly important to you and what kind of life you want to create for yourself.
Because ultimately, financial planning is about using money as a tool to achieve those goals.
It's about aligning your finances with your values.
Exactly. It's not just about the destination. It's about enjoying the journey.
Beautifully said.
So as we wrap up this segment, we want to leave you with a challenge.
A call to action.
Take some time to reflect on your financial goals and values.
What are your priorities?
What steps can you take, even small ones, to move closer to those goals?
It could be as simple as setting up that automatic transfer to your savings account.
Reviewing your insurance policy.
Or canceling that subscription you're not really using.
Remember, you don't have to do it all at once.
Start small, build momentum, and celebrate your wins along the way.
We'll be back in a jiffy to offer some more practical tips and strategies to help you turn these insights into action. Okay, we're back and ready to put all this knowledge into action.
Yeah, let's get tactical.
It's one thing to talk about these financial principles, but it's another thing to actually, implement them.
Absolutely. So let's bridge that gap.
So both sources really emphasize the importance of actually writing down your goals.
Yeah, getting them out of your head and onto paper.
It might seem simple, but it's amazing how powerful that can be.
It's like making a commitment.
Totally. So once you have those goals written down, then you can start breaking them down into smaller steps.
Right. Instead of one giant, overwhelming goal, it's a series of manageable steps.
Exactly. So for example, Truist suggests aiming for 3 months of living expenses in your emergency fund.
Yeah, that's a good target to shoot for.
But I know for some people that might feel like a huge amount of money.
Especially if you're just starting out.
So what advice would you give someone who's feeling overwhelmed by that number?
I'd say start small and be consistent. Even if you can only put aside $50 or $100 a month initially, it's still a step in the right direction.
Yeah, every little bit helps.
And here's a pro tip. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your savings account.
Well, that's a good one.
That way you don't even have to think about it. It just happens automatically.
Automate it and forget about it. I like it.
Makes it much easier to stick to your savings goals.
Okay, and while we're on the topic of automation, remember the NASDAQ expert's advice about reviewing those subscriptions.
Oh yeah, those can be a silent budget killer.
Seriously, all those streaming services and gym memberships, we're not really using
It can really drain your bank account without you even realizing it.
So take some time to look at your bank statements and credit card bills and see if there are any subscriptions you can cut.
Or even just downgrade to a cheaper plan.
Yeah, maybe you don't need all the bells and whistles.
It's all about finding those little areas where you can save money without sacrificing your quality of life.
Okay, so we've got those sneaky subscriptions under control. What about insurance?
Insurance, another opportunity to potentially save some money,
Yeah, it's worth shopping around and comparing quotes from different companies.
especially for things like car insurance and homeowners insurance.
You might be surprised at how much the rates can vary.
And it's not just about price either.
Right. You also want to make sure you have the right coverage for your needs.
Exactly. So don't be afraid to ask questions and make sure you understand what you're paying for.
Okay, so we've covered emergency funds, subscriptions, insurance, all those kind of nitty-gritty details.
The building blocks of a solid financial plan.
But now I want to touch on something a little bit bigger picture, something that both sources talked about, and that's the importance of aligning your finances with your values.
Yes. This is where it gets really personal.
Because it's not just about, having a certain amount of money in the bank.
It's about using your money in a way that reflects who you are and what's important to you.
Exactly. So if you're passionate about environmental sustainability, maybe you choose to invest in companies that are eco-friendly.
Or maybe you prioritize experiences over material possessions, and so you spend your money on travel and adventures.
It's about making conscious choices that align with your values.
And it can be really empowering to realize that you have that control over your finances.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about the numbers. It's about creating a life that feels good to you, a life that you're proud of.
Beautifully said. I couldn't agree more.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into financial resolutions for 2025, we want to leave you with a final thought.
A parting reminder.
It's not about achieving some arbitrary definition of financial success.
It's about creating a life that feels authentic and fulfilling to you.
A life that reflects your unique values and aspirations.
And remember, financial well-being is a journey, not a destination.
It's about making those small, consistent steps, learning as you go, and celebrating your progress along the way.
So go out there, take control of your finances, and build the life you've always dreamed of.
We'll be here cheering you on every step of the way.